Okay, so what we are going to do today is we are going to talk about something so important when it comes to how do we move from here to here. And so whether that be from here to the $1 million GP, from here to growing our business with a customer, from here to bringing a customer into our world. It's called the value ladder. And in essence, what we are looking at when it comes to the value ladder, just for a very quick kind of visual, is if you think of your business like this, okay? So what do you offer here? 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 And what do you offer here to scale your customer consistently through your corporation? Now, some might say, Dan, I move freight. What do you mean, what do I offer? So what I say is, okay, well, you move freight. So maybe you start with LTL. Can you offer truckload service? Can you offer warehousing? Can you offer custom brokerage? Can you offer international? Can you offer air? Can you offer ocean? Can you offer, customs brokerage? I think I already said that. What are the services you offer? Can you offer dedicated fleet? Can you not only offer dedicated fleet, but then can you turn and do, I'm going to do a cost plus here. These are all value ladder sequences, and there's steps in your value ladder, right? Like understanding this. So perfect example would be something like this. So, and this is actually the example I just used 10 minutes ago on a call. So you start here and say this is like your cold call, right? And you bring the customer from a cold call and they become a customer. And you say to them, you say, okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Customer, if we do 10 to 15 loads and show you some real value, can we get a dedicated freight? And they say yes. So what happens is the next step in this value journey is to do 10 to 15 loads to get dedicated business, right? That's an actual step into the value journey. Very simple, isn't it? Like pretty easy stuff to comprehend when it comes to that value journey. That's the next step. Now, what's the step after that? So the next step after that might be 3 more lanes, or maybe it's warehouse. Maybe it's drop trailers to get more business. So now what you're doing is you're taking them to the next step, because they say, okay, if you do these 10 and 20 dedicated ones and you do it for 3 months, we can do this and we can give you these drop trailers. So now 3 months later, you're taking to the next step in the value journey, right? So if we look at this from any business, right? Typically your starting point of the value journey is always going to be the lowest end offer. And then the highest end offer is going to be the high point of the value journey. So again, you start with 10 or 15 loads, then you go to a higher price dedication. Then you go to a higher price where you're going to get 15,000 square feet that you're billing out monthly. So now you go from like 10 or 15 loads, $2,000 a load, say, so it's 30 grand in revenue, to dedicated freight at 30, 40 loads, which turns, 60, 80,000 in revenue. Then you get 15,000 square feet of warehouse space at $2 per. So now all of a sudden, before you know it, you're at $110,000 in revenue with this one customer. You started at $30,000. You see, you're bringing them higher up the value ladder to deliver more for them. Okay. That's in essence what the value ladder is. That's the style of it. So how do we then say, okay, how do we amplify this on the value ladder? Very easily done is we say at what point, and let me just grab a different color here. So at what point in the value ladder, and this is something that, so I'll kind of retract for a minute because I know I just dove right in here and I had like verbal diarrhea. But the idea is understanding, like when anyone comes into my world, I know the exact path I'm taking them down. The exact path. I understand my value ladder. So for me, you might have come into my world by listening to my podcast. You might have come into my world by downloading a free report or getting a free mini course. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. I want more. So more would be like maybe a low tier course. And then eventually you got into this course, which is $2,000 a person. It's a very expensive course, but the training you get is unreal. What's the next step in the value journey? Next step in the value journey is my program, my actual like conferences. So to get you to my conferences, that's the next step. So how do I do that? To bring you into the next step of my value journey, with every inception membership, you get 2 backstage passes to the next summit. At that summit, is there going to be something to buy? Possibly, if it's in your wheelhouse and you're like, yeah, this is great, this is awesome. Like the summit we have coming up on the 12th, wait till you see what we have for you then. It is going to blow your mind what we have for you at that summit on September 12th. So as we are approaching and as we start getting into more of the summer months, you're going to start getting emails from me to say, hey, September 12th, the summit, oh my God, it's coming. We have some awesome speakers coming, like it, and we hype it up. So what do? Okay, so you go in, you say, okay, at this point, I'm going to give you 2 points here. So this is their slow season. Or the second point you could do is this is where I'm going to ask for a reference letter. Right? And you break this down. Every step of this sequence, you say, okay, here I'm going to get a 2 times dedication. Here I'm going to get a 1 dedication. And here I'm going to get the warehousing. Right? So as you move through your sales sequence and you see you're consistently raising the bar, you're actually getting different things accomplished. Now, for you, you might say, okay, so if we do this for like, 10 or 15 loads for 2 months, and then we do this for 3 months, and then all of a sudden they hit their slow season, we're going to deliver a special or promo. Right? Now, for those of you that haven't been through module 7 yet after the sale, there's specials and promos. And actually, not this week, but next week, I'm recording another piece for that course, which I think is going to be astronomical for y'all. But anyways, I digress. So maybe that's the point that you get to where you say, okay, you know what? Say this is the 3-month mark. Right? Now, I want you to understand something when it comes to the value journey. There's 2 things to do with this value journey. You can do it based on volume. Actually 3. Revenue and time. So when you're looking at your value journey, you look at those 3. What is the time period that you want to walk people through this value journey, right? So, when you're looking at that time period, call this a month, right? So your value journey, you're going to start with a cold call. 1 month later, you want business. Call this 2 months, right? Call this 2 months, right? Call this 2 months. So we also call this a 5-star account. So when I was selling freight, what I would do is I would walk 2 months. So in 10 months, I would move a customer from prospect to 5-star account. That was my value journey. How would I do that? How would I start? So now, again, not every customer worked in this sequence because not every one of them had this type of business. I would always start with LTL or truckload, OTR, over the road, always, because that's where I had firsthand grabs. I had my dedicated network. I had my people that can come in strong and show real value and just deliver over and over and over again. Then I moved to intermodal. After 2 months of doing truckload, I tried to sell intermodal, move them to the next portion in my value sequence. Then I sold air and ocean. Then, because now I got truckload, intermodal, air and ocean, I understand the flow. And again, let's figure this sequentialness out, okay? I understand the flow. My next point is I'm selling them customs. Why? Because I can go, what are you paying? Over the last 6 months, we've done X, Y, and Z loads. If you're $45, I can charge you $30 because we're doing the truckloads and LTL and intermodal and air and ocean, and we're clearing all this, like we're doing all this freight for you. We can give you like $15, $20 of clearance. We're actually going to drop your clearance fees in half. Easy sell, because the company's already established that. Now, here's the thing. Some of you are saying, well, Dan might come in and do it. If it doesn't do it, connect with me because I've got experts in every single field. I'll connect you with these experts so they will help sell your value journey. Okay, don't worry about it. And then the last one that I messed with was warehouse, because now I understand their entire business flow. What if we put some warehousing together for you to alleviate this, to alleviate this? So what this would look like is I'd start with truckload or LTL. Then I'd say, okay, now we're going to do intermodal. Hey, when we would do intermodal and then we start doing ocean as well, I noticed that we have a lot of customs that's clear. I can save you X. Yes, go for it. Okay, so now we're already, and I actually should do this. So now we're already here, right? So this one would be customs. So we'll call this OTR, rail. We'll call it international, and then we'll call this customs, right? And then this is warehouse, right? So if we look at this from this particular situation, right? We'll do this so they're all circled. So we sold OTR, we go to rail. Now we understand here's our volume on OTR, here's our volume on rail, here's our volume in international. Because of X volume, we can save you X money on customs. Now, you know what I did realize, where we'll take these three, for example, and we'll jump it over here. Over the past 6 months, you've paid X dollars in demurrage fee on your international freight. You've paid X dollars in demurrage fee on your rail, all because you don't necessarily have the warehouse capacity to operate. What we can actually do is, if we book you into this warehouse and we take these containers that clear customs and we drop all this freight in here, instead of paying all these exorbitant fees in international and intermodal and demurrage and detention, we can actually wipe that in half. Now, again, do you see the escalation of the sale? So here's the thing. A lot of you might be thinking, yeah, Dan, that's great. Is it that easy? If you deliver a value, it is easy. Is it simple to execute on? Not all the time, because you have to have faith in these departments, right? It took me years to understand this, years, because I always thought, if I'm in the OTR space and I do LTL and truckload, why don't I just do more LTL and truckload? But here's the thing, and here's something that I want you to see here, okay? So this is where we do something that I call compounding your results, okay? So here you are, and let's say we just take this block, for example. This is really getting messy, and I apologize, but this block. So say we're doing 20 truckloads a week, right? That's a lot of business to do this. And say out of those 20 truckloads, you're making $10,000 GP, right? Hypothetically, you're making 10 grand GP. So out of that 10 grand, this is all you almost trading your people's time for money, right? In this block. Now, what if you were to add 15 to 20 rail a week? And let's say that 15 to 20 even brought you 5K in additional profit, okay? This one here, you're pretty much hands off because that department handles it. Then you go to international and say they're doing 2 international shipments a week. And those 2 international shipments brings you $500 a week, $2,000 a month, okay? So then what you do is you go into customs. Now, depending on what your deal is with customs, you might make a commission, you might not. So let's say just hypothetically make 0 on customs, no problem. But then you go into warehouse and they take, 10,000 square feet. And every month you make $1 per square foot. So now look at this. You've taken a business that's giving you $10,000 a month in GP. You've added another 5K. You've added another 2K. There's 7K. Plus you've added another 10K. So just in this one customer, you've added $17,000 GP to the bottom line every month because you brought them through a value journey. Now, here's the secondary part of it, because it's not just money. Like, this is great. You have different departments. Each of these departments has to add serious value. They have to be part of your, again, understand what this is. It's the value journey. How is giving you all the business going to be of value to somebody else? It's you. You, and you. That's it. Because they're dealing with you. So everybody you work with has to be a mirror image of you. See, this was my big issue going into this. Sure, the company I worked for had a 5-star system, right? You think about it, OTR, over the road, intermodal, international, customs, warehouse, 5 different levels of supply chain. right? And this is a 3PL, it's not a 4PL or 5PL. So we didn't have auditing or processing or payments or none of that stuff. It was just a 3PL. We had a 5-star system. So what I did is I went to these departments, like if you're interested, I'll connect you with the people that you need to be connected with. I went to these departments and I said, here is my vision. Here's how we help customers. Can you see that same vision? Because if you can, I will sell this service to every single one of my customers. This is my theory. This is my method. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is how I want to do it. And I sat down with the head of every single department. And I said, this is what I think should happen. This is kind of my brainchild. And they said, we're in. We're in all day long. See, getting everyone on that page that you're on is the most critical part. Moving your customers through the value journey. What is the next logical thing they need? Right? So we look at my programs. We have introductory programs, bulletproof client profile. What's the next logical thing they need? Sales sequence to sell to that bulletproof client profile. What's the next logical thing they need? Baseline training to build that foundation of the sales sequence to house the business they can rest on. What's the next logical thing? An in-person event to meet fellow sales hackers, to meet people in the industry, to meet people that are going to help them take their life to the next level. It's a logical next step, right? Do you remember the time sorry, not the time. Do you remember when we talked about the baseball diamond, right? Where you go to first base, what's the next logical step in baseball? Second base. You can't cut across the pitchers bound to third base, you're out. So the next logical step is third. Second, when you're on second, and so you qualify them on first, when you're on second, you find out why they bought, okay? The next logical step is third base. Now, third base is fulfill the why. When you fulfill that why, the next logical location for everyone to go is home base. You get the point, you get the customer, right? Same thing once you have the customer. It's a different perspective that you have to be in, because it's not, listen, here's the thing. If I think now the latest number is close to 97% of everything we touch on a truck has touched an ocean container. That means somebody's importing this stuff. If we look at just this, there's 15 companies involved to make this. The blow mold, the rubber, the plastic, the paper, the printing, like everything, all these things, the ink inside the actual injection molds and the pen tips and everything. There's 15 different companies that are responsible for making this, whether it be raw product, whatever. Maybe that's part of your value journey. Maybe you're saying, Dan, I don't necessarily have a 5-step system. Like my company doesn't have that. Okay. Maybe you have a 3-step, then your 4th step is going after their suppliers for raw material. Then your 5th step is maybe offering dedicated business based on like whatever that value journey sequence is for you that matches your individual business goals. For me, it was always, if I can have 5 services with one customer, what does that do? So let's take this back a step from a longevity perspective. What does that do? 5 services, one customer. It's a lot harder for them to leave. Okay, as crazy as that sounds, and like, Dan, really? Like you like really? It's yeah. Like I've got every single mode that they work in. So we have to work together for the end goal. So if another broker comes in, it's not as if it's not as if any of it would leave. So if you had an issue with rail, they might not get rid of the rail departments. Okay, how do we work this out? So it creates that long-term relationship, that long-term partnership that we all want and need. That's critical, because what's the objective? The objective is to continue doing business with this customer that we've qualified, we've walked through the process for a decade, not months. So why not, if you have faith in what you're doing and you believe wholeheartedly in what you're doing, then you can put them through a 5-star sequence and do business with them at every single level and maintain that value because you have a value journey. You have a value ladder. You're bringing them down each step up this ladder. And with each step, you're helping them achieve another goal, right? Until they're up here and they're like the star. You know, they're sitting here and they're like, oh my God, I'm on the mountain and oh, this is awesome. And yay, I got my big flag. And, you know, they're like the gold star in their company because they found somebody that can walk them through all of these steps and help them create that destination that they want just as much as you do. Probably even more, because they're not the experts in this field. Y'all are. That makes sense? That's a value journey. So where are you today? And here's the thing, you know, as messy as messy as that is, look at the stairs, right? And just call that your value journey. Draw yourself 5 stairs and ask yourself these questions. What is the first part of that journey that I want to walk customers through? How can I add value to that first part by offering something in the next logical step? How can I add value to that with the next logical step? How can I add value to that with the next logical step? And how can I add value to that with the next logical step? One of the easiest is OTR, rail, international, you know, customs and warehousing. Because 5 stars, pretty simple. You have 5 contacts in all those places. Now, what you can actually do is you can actually have a 6 star in there, because recently with my conversations and relationships with guys like Mark Ridley, who are professionals in buying currency, you can add a 6 step in there to the value journey. Well, you know, we got all these different services. You know what I'm realizing? The amount of money you're paying out here, here, and here in Canadian or US funds or ruples or whatever, wherever you're buying from, is it possible maybe it'd be better to buy money? So what if we went with all your international containers and we helped you buy money better? What would that do for you? See, that's adding value. There's got to be that value point to everything you're doing. If you're going to go and set your customer up with rail and it's not adding value, don't set them up with rail. Don't. If you can't add value in the international department, don't ask them for international. If you can't add value with the customs, don't ask them for customs. If you can't add value with the warehouse, don't ask them for the warehouse. Find something else that's the next logical step. So whether it be, you can do a ton of things here. You can do OTR, you can do volume discounts, you can do quarterly rebates, you can wind this up any way you want. If the customer's goal is to streamline their business and create as much buying power in the market as they can to reduce their overall costs. Okay, I'm your guy. Let's do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with 10 to 15 loads dedicated. And as we grow up, here's your scale as we grow. When we get to 100% of your business, we'll cut you a check quarterly for 7%. Helping them achieve their goal, helping you achieve your goal. You know, we do this. Okay, let's do a cost plus all the way up. Another huge value add. We will negotiate for you on your behalf. Sign this letter saying we can go to market to negotiate for you. There's all sorts of things you can do in a value ladder. It's just a matter of critically thinking about it, like sitting down and saying, okay, how am I going to critically think through this process? Where do I want to start with customers? Where do I want to end? So I knew I was starting with OTR, 100%, no offense about I'm starting with OTR. But I also knew the goal was 5 stars. Did every customer, was I able to walk every customer down this value journey? No. Some customers, I'd walk them through OTR. We couldn't compete on rail. I'd walk them and get international. We couldn't compete on their customs and they didn't have warehousing. So they were a 3-star customer. Not a big deal. It's 3 stars, still a great number. Well, unless you're going like to the Caribbean, then you don't really want to stay in a 3-star, but or Cuba 3-star, don't stay there. But 3 stars is a good number. Okay, so now next customer, start at the beginning, OTR again. Okay, rail, yes, rail worked. International, too high. Customs, that worked. Warehousing, too high. Okay, another 3-star customer. Then one customer would be 4 stars, some customers would be 5. But every one I understood conceptually, this is where I come in, this is where I want to bring them. There we go. This is where I am starting, this is where I want to bring them. Right up the ladder.
That's the value journey. Don't think I had the chat going here, y'all, and I apologize. Does anyone have any questions when it comes to that value journey? If you throw them down in here, y'all, get them in, and we'll get them answered for you. So that value journey is very, very, very important. It's kind of like an email sequence, right? Like when you do an email sequence, it's the next logical step. We often sometimes in the industry call them soap opera sequences, because like you can walk through a soap opera and you can miss like 6 episodes and you catch up pretty quick because you understand what's going on. But it's a story that continues through the process. In the digital marketing world, they say like a warm-up sequence is a soap opera sequence where you take somebody through a story, right? And if you look at how stories go, they take you through a value journey. Because if you think about something they call the hero's journey, okay? So typically a hero's journey is, and I think we did a session on this before, but a hero's journey is like, they start here, they have this disbelief, then they realize they can do it. And there's always like somebody that, the Yoda that guides them along. Like you look at Luke Skywalker, I use him a lot. I can't defeat the Darth Vader. And then he goes and trains with Yoda, and Yoda's like, okay, let me just show you a couple things here, but you're doing it. He does it. He goes and defeats Darth Vader, right? That's the hero's journey. And really what we're doing is we're bringing every customer through this hero's journey and allowing them to become the individual they want to be, allowing them to achieve their goals while we stand as the guide in the background. That's super important. But if you don't understand the steps that you want to bring somebody through, how are you ever going to move them up? That's the big question. If you are singular focused, you're always going to be in that one focus. If you say, here's where I'm starting, and again, we'll just go back here. Here's where I'm starting, but I know in 2 months, I'm going to sell them this. Then I know in 2 months, I'm going to sell them this. Then I know in 2 months, I'm going to sell them this. Then I know in 2 months, I'm going to sell them this. And over the course of the next year, I want them to be up here in the business cycle. That's a journey, whether you call it the value journey, whether you call it, the I'm a superstar journey, whatever you want to call it. It's a journey. And in that journey, what do you do when? That's the big thing. It's like having a conversation with a customer and saying, okay, what's your primary and secondary reason? And I just actually finished this conversation, so it's fresh in my mind. So I'll regurgitate it. And for all y'all that I just had this conversation with, I'm regurgitating it. I apologize, but okay, so you send emails out and you don't necessarily take the cheapest rate, but you're there. And if I'm $50 higher, but I've shown you a huge value, you're still going to use my service. Okay. And then at what point of the value journey that I bring you down, at what point where you see what we can do as a company for you, are you going to take these lanes that I'm doing off of that bidding market? That's a value journey. That is a value journey, because what you're doing is you're saying, if I give you X, will you do this? So it's the, if I do this, will you do that, as part of your value journey? But if I do 10 loads for you and show you unreal value, can we get these lanes dedicated and pull them out of the spot market? That is this part of the value journey heading to this part. So maybe it's not rail. Like I said at the beginning, maybe this is dedicated, right? So again, and that's why I kind of did different colors here. So, I mean, as horribly messy as that is, each color, so black represents GP, blue represents the different services, and green represents something other than services, meaning there's just other things in here. So and then like red represents different things you can do. So with all of this being said, this is what a value journey would look like in a cleaner form than what I've put here. But I hope you get the picture. Looks like we have some comments. How can a new sales agent create this type of journey if they don't have relationships built up already? Also, if the agent is new to the process, so they just focus on the one partnership at a time. Good question. Yeah, Damon, great question, actually. So here's the thing. Again, you're starting with one. Okay. So if they don't have relationships at this time, get a hold of me. I'll give you the relationships for rail, international, warehousing, and customs. I'll give you the relationship to be able to sell. Talk to people in your company,
right? Like if you're new to this industry and you're just walking in, there's going to be people in your company that know this. Oh, I know a great person for rail, or I know a great person for rail, or hey, boss, Damon, boss man, I'm going to do OTR in 2 months. Can we have a rail division? Now we're challenging you to go on that value journey, right? So there's a million different ways to skin the cat. Should you focus on the one that you've been handled first that you need to learn? For sure. But I would say, even if you're new in the industry, ask for that right away. And the reason I'm going to say that is because, again, even if you're new, right, and your value journey is like 1 load a week, if I show you X on 1 load a week for 3 weeks, can we get 3 loads a week? That's your next position in the value journey. And then if I show you that, can we get 5 loads a week? Because that's the evolution. That's the next logical step. If you're adding value on the 1 load a week, why don't we transition that value to give you 3 times the value and give us 3 loads a week, right? That's the key point for any sales rep when they're walking in. It doesn't matter about any of the other stuff. You can do a value journey for a freight volume escalation. And now you have your roadmap. So now you know at the end of 10 months, you're going to be doing 15 loads a week. Because the deal is, every 2 months, if you do X, I will give you Y. Now you have something to shoot for. You know, your team knows, more importantly, the company knows, hey, Damon, I just got this account, and what we've decided is bang, bang, bang. Perfect. Okay. How everybody rally around. How do we get here? Then you've got everyone on the same page. And here's the thing. When everyone's got the same vision, when everyone's focused on the same goal, amazing things happen. Like amazing things happen. Because everybody's marshaled their energy towards that one goal. If you're fragmented in any which way, shape, or form, it's going to suffer, right? So again, I hope that answered your question, Damon. If this process is new, they just focus on one partnership at a time. But that's all it is one partnership at a time. And that's why it's the next logical thing. So say, for example, you're doing OTR, right? And there is no rail, it's only OTR, right? You've investigated or you've looked at it, there's no rail. So you would skip rail, you'd go right to international. Or maybe they're doing OTR and you realize their, customs is screwing up left, right, and center, and paperwork's not done and all this. As a logistics, as a professional sales rep, you're gonna be like, you know what? We've done 15 loads for you. We've found there's a huge issue with customs. I've got a friend that does customs, the owner of my company recommends him highly. I would suggest you talk to him, because in the last 2 months, you've spent, $1,000 on demurrage at the border because paperwork wasn't ready. So you just actually, you would go, so hold on, I gotta find a shortcut for this thing. So you would go from here and you jump all the way to here, or actually better said, this would move to here as the next step in your value journey, right? And then as you progress through your business, new steps will open up. But think about that. And so if you're new, I would say, your starting point's 1 load, your ending point is 80% of their volume, 50% of volume, 60% of your volume. Here's your journey. And you don't have to be experiencing the industry to say that, because in the end, if you're a salesperson in the industry, and strictly a salesperson, your ops team is experienced, which will help you walk through that. So if you're a salesperson that's new, go to your ops team and say, here's where we're at. This is what we need. How do we get to here, here, and here? They're going to say, ask this, find this, get this, get this, get that. Okay, you got your marching orders. Now you're back. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Customer goes bang, 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 bang. Okay, perfect. Now you're back to your ops team, and your ops team says, perfect. We got the roadmap to get the business going. Let's skyrocket. Make sense? Damon, I know you were asking that for somebody else, because I know you know that. But just let me know if that answered the question, if they're clear. Does anyone else have any questions on this? Is it clear? Is it understandable? Is it logical? Do you get it? I'll give you a kind of a second or two here to put those through. Damon, for value gen, it's also the level of service, OTR versus rail, and type of customer service. As an agent, you can provide the customer. I noticed some rail was harder to get answers on. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So like I said at the beginning, for me, it took me years to get that rail piece. It actually, full transparency, it took me years to put any of my customers in any other department, because the concept was, oh, they're going to screw it up. And if they screw it up, I lose the business, which it happened. Like, it's happened, and it's probably happened to all of you. It happens. But you know what? You know, when you go to an expert in rail, and that's why I said, sometimes, like, I searched my department, my rail department. I mean, we were talking $1 billion corporation here. It wasn't a small company. Offices everywhere. I spoke to rail people in every single office till I found one that was specific to what I believed value was. I started there, and that person crushed it for me. I did the same thing. This company had 150 people in international. I probably sat with 80 of them before I found the one that was like just meshed with me. And I'm like, yeah, is that what? Oh, we're in? Okay. And we closed. Like, so when I was running, so here, let me do this. Let me show you this. So when I was running this style business, okay, my OTR was about $90,000 a month GP. My rail was 50. My international was close to 60. My customs, now it was, I mean, we got a little portion off this. So I think customs like 3-4 grand a month. And my warehouse was close to 80,000 a month. Profit. All because I dealt with experts in each field. That's how you're able to generate 3.5, almost 4 million in GP annually. That's how you do that. You will never be able to do it strictly from OTR unless you have a massive OTR department. A massive, it's that compounding addition. And you think about it, you're generating that kind of revenue. The value you're putting out to the market is absolutely astronomical. Would that harm the relationship with the potential customer, or would it be advised to start with your strongest service first? 100%. So again, most people on this call, and most of us here that are here and that will be here, it's OTR. That's our strongest service, right? That's why I say to everyone, like, where are you strong in, right? So like, every new customer we bring on, typically the conversation is, what's your client profile and where do you have the best availability? You know, Damon, when we were talking with you, it's like, okay, we're doing the Northeast, we're doing, you know, the New Jersey, Illinois, that kind of area, the Ohio, all that, Wisconsin, lower Wisconsin, everything. That's where we're strong. We have X amount of coming in. So everybody should start there to get you business, right? Same thing on the OTR. Absolutely start with our strong point. When you first come into business, you don't know what your strong point is, but if you're being hired as an OTR rep, start with OTR, right? I would suggest any rep that's in this business, that's just starting this business, spend a couple of weeks with ops. Like, ask the questions, right? If you have assets, start with those assets. Because here's the thing, if you have assets, you can find better business for that asset. If you have assets and you're dealing with brokers that in good times they're working with you, but when things, you know, tighten, they're like, well, we need a break, we need a break, we need a break. And they don't treat you the way you deserve to be treated. You need to replace that broker. I don't care how long the relationship's been. You need to replace them because they're taking greed over longevity and profitability for everyone. So replace them. Send your people into that area. But absolutely start with your strongest link. If you have a friend that is unreal in a specific service, like I've got a buddy of mine, Thomas, he's awesome in international. I have no problem in a conversation where I'm trying to sell OTR. If it goes to international, I have no problem selling that international piece because I have full faith in him to do it. If it goes to rail, I'll immediately engage Christy from Connection Logistics immediately. And I'll have no problem selling in the OTR meeting that. If it's expedited, I'll engage Nicole at Candor immediately as I'm selling the OTR. Like, I have no problem with it. If it's warehouse, I'll engage my man Mike at York. Like, immediately. You know, like, immediately. And so this for me is building up those relationships. So ask your teammates, ask your colleagues, ask people around you, like, what is it that, who do you know is the best in here? And talk to them. and say, if you were to, you know, give me 5 things, 5 questions to come to you with, what would they be? What would you need to know? So if somebody says, well, you know, I got OTR, you know, I'm really, and say this is on your call, but I'm really having problems with capacity on rail. Do you guys have, yeah, we do. You know, typically it starts with these 5 questions. You might have a couple minutes to answer them. And once I get these 5, if I get you the answers back by tomorrow by noon, would you be able to have another meeting with me on Wednesday at 3 or Thursday at 3? So now, or Friday, sorry, because today's Wednesday. So again, if I do this, will you do that? If I get them to you by tomorrow at noon, would you be able to have a call with me at Friday at 3? Now you have that time. You've given the 5 questions that your expert in rail needs to get you answers. You have the answers by 3 o'clock today. You have your meeting by Friday at 5. Done. Right? Like, again, simple strategy. It's the execution. Does that make sense to everybody? Damon, great questions, buddy. Great questions. Oh, Q&A. Looks like we got a Q&A. Makes sense. Thanks. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Okay. If there's no more questions, my friend. Hey, you know what? I hope today served you. I hope it was valuable. I hope it gave you a little more insight as to like where you are and that end result, right? Like, think of it like this. You don't just get in your car and start driving. You have a destination, whether it be the kid's school, grocery store, whatever. You don't just jump on a plane and say, I don't know, take me wherever. You have a destination. Same thing in business. The challenge with business is not all of us put this conceptual idea of where I am now and where I want to go. I need to know where I want to go. When any phone call I get on, I know exactly where I want to be at the end. That helps me continue the conversation in a logical way. I hope that makes sense. All right, my friends, remember, go out there, make every call educational, crush your sales, and we'll see you on the next one. And you're only one sales sequence away.